late and you probably won't even know it because we are on the recording now, but I have been put in Facebook jail, and so therefore we couldn't go live tonight. So, so be careful, behave on Facebook. That's what you have to learn. And we are here with Bruno and Jerry as our guests, and so we're super happy. We got to speak to Jerry last week about vision, and so that was a great session, by the way, Jerry. Lots of good stuff. So tonight we are here with one of the legends and icons of our industry, Bruno Mascolo, and he's going to talk to us tonight about vision. And so I will kick us off, Bruno. I would love to hear your creative process when it comes to vision. Like, how do you cultivate your ideas? And I think the one question I have to ask you, how do you trust your intuition?
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Why do people not trust their intuition?
I think that
it's like not trusting yourself.
Yeah, and I think sometimes I've gotten much better at it. I think that I was very strong at it at one point, and then being a salon owner and having challenging times and things happen, it pulled my confidence down. And then
insecurity, and that's what probably
yes. Now I got it back,
that's good. But you know that you got to understand that some of those things you cannot just let yourself go to the insecurities that happen to us. You got to always maintain and embrace that comfort level of that thing that is intuition, that is, I don't know how you even explain it sometimes. It's the feeling, the emotions, the ideas that come with you. Those are very important elements to keep on guiding us how to get to where we want to go, and even help us with the direction of where we want to go. You follow what I mean? If your heart and mind is not in what you want to achieve, well, I can guarantee you probably it'll become twice as difficult or maybe impossible to achieve until you embrace it and really care for it just the same as you got to get it to care for you, you know? And that's when it starts to become a little bit more easier to be able to plan and push forward on it, you know? Yeah. So that's very important. You can't, you know, it's like when I come up with ideas or visions or something like that, where do they come from? Have you ever asked yourself that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I spent a lot of time contemplating this, and
it's difficult to know. You got to embrace it. You don't question everything that comes from within. You know, we don't know how to answer that, but I don't think any of us could answer where they come from. You know, sometimes it's little things that make you think of something else, inspire you in a particular way, and that type of stuff. Where does vision of what you want and where you want to go come from? I'll say probably my mind. Are you sure? Your mind can give you the vision of where you want to go. Mm-hmm. I'm not 100% sure. So being alert of all the things around you and the people around you, there's different things that occur on a regular basis that spark little sparks inside of one that gives you direction, intuition, where you want to go, why you want to go, what you want to do. Why do you want to do what you want to do? Why did I feel when I was running my businesses that I wanted to train people? Where did that come from? I don't remember when I started hairdressing, anybody going out of their way to say, oh, you know, we're going to put time aside, or I'm going to put time aside, guys, to train you guys. You know? Where does that come from within us? And that's the secret, you know, it's like we get these emotions, these feelings that are there, but they've always been there. It's just that we haven't identified them in before because we've never actually even tried to participate with that. But when you try to participate with it and you start to see the necessity of it and the importance of being able to get somebody inspired with those things and showing them that they have those things too, and making them believe that they can accomplish whatever it is that they put in their mind, that becomes a lot easier for them to be able to follow you. Because it's no longer just your vision. You've just now tied them in. You've explained to them that all of us are the same. The most important thing that I did when I was teaching and coaching my people was that none of us are different. I'm no clever than you are, no smarter than you are. I just try harder. I work harder and I accomplish more because I want to. But if you are happy to be where you are and accomplish what you've done, then you'll stay where you are and not accomplish much more. And that's the reality of it. You know, all the other things that we do is organization and vision and stuff. Well, we all should have vision. If you don't have vision of what you want or where you want to go, it's like not knowing where the road is.
So take us back. I want to go back in the beginning of when you started and you were cultivating the vision to begin with. Did you have the end in mind? Like, did you have this big grand idea?
Mine was always grand idea of what I wanted to accomplish, and the vision was always there. However, you know, then the journey starts and it takes different paths, you know, and then you can't control, but the vision and the thing that you're thinking about and visualizing and coaching other people to believe in themselves and believe in where they want to go and what they want to do, and everybody can accomplish their vision if they work hard at it, then that was there for me. But the reality of where the journey took me, you know, I was just as surprised as anybody else is. Here's what it is, you know?
Well, I don't want to break this up too much because I'm just sitting back here enjoying the conversation. But I remember you told me one time I asked you, and I felt like an idiot when I asked you. Well, we had did this. You know, I started my salon, and then I met Bruno, and they were doing the ambassadors. We were art team. We were first ambassadors, then art team members, then we were regional art directors, and it turned into partnerships. And I can't remember at one point, probably at the partnership point, I said, Bruno, did you have all this like planned out from the beginning? And he looked at me and like, no, Jerry. Like, did you think I have a crystal ball? No, you know, I get it started, I have a plan, and it evolved, you know? And I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's true. That's the way it is. You know, that's the way. The meetings that we used to have with our people, most of the times I found that what the young people really needed was to be able to get confidence and believe in themselves, you know? It wasn't just the skills that we could teach them. And in fact, that was the easiest thing that we could do, teaching the skills. And a lot of people just did education for their staff and whatever, but that was just education of how to do this, how to move from here to here, how to move your hands like this and like this. It wasn't teaching them how to use your vision, how to use your feeling and emotions and your real characteristics to apply to make this happen for yourself. And then on top of that, what's your vision? What do they have in mind? What do they want to do? You know, how many
So good.
people come to and they get jobs with us, but are they only interested in learning how to put rollers in the hair or cutting the hair? I couldn't believe that that's all I was going to be able to coach somebody with, how to actually apply, how to comb your hair, how to cut it, or how to dry it. It wasn't doing it for me, you know. That's what made me spark something in me to say, look, I can't just do this to do it the right. If I don't do it the right way, I'm not going to be able to do it properly. If I'm not going to do it properly, what gratification am I going to get out of this? It's always been a real belief. And then when I started to build a real belief, that's when I could coach it. You know what I mean? If you're just teaching, it's like somebody saying, okay, you're going to be a teacher today, and you go and you teach this, and this. Does that mean you really know it? I don't think so.
No.
You know, so that's not the way that we got to do it. We got to make them feel, participate, and discuss, ask questions, all those things that are important for them to really learn something. It's not about just sitting in front of a blackboard and you say this, and this. Do you do this first, this second, this third, that? No, that's a regimentation that you can teach robots.
Yeah.
We're not that, especially in hairdressing. We're not just there to make somebody's hair look good. We're there to make that lady's face excel, be more beautiful, you know. And if she's got a high forehead, well, we're gonna disguise it a bit. If she's got a small neck or a long neck, you have to work towards that to make it so that when she looks in the mirror, she looks fabulous. Not that she's going to notice. You know how many people came into the shop, especially when the Vidal Sassoon cuts first started to come out? I had this lady that must have been at least 6'6", and she had a short haircut. That obviously was, I mean, the haircut was beautiful. There's no question about it. But it was so wrong for her. She was this beautiful, tall lady, but it looked odd because her head looked so small on her body.
Mm-hmm.
How many people really take notice of that stuff? Do you know what I mean? How many people really look at the client that comes in and says to themselves, how can I embrace this lady in a way that I can make her look better, feel better, and be feeling good about herself much more than before? And that's where I think it was my vision of teaching my people. It wasn't enough for them to do a great haircut. Wasn't interested, you know? And in some cases, you can't do a great haircut on somebody that is out of proportion with her body and her head and stuff. You've got to be able to be smart enough to make that person look better.
Right. Right.
You look at the face.
I remember somebody saying we're in the beauty business, we're not in the ugly business.
Yeah, some clients have probably been a little confused, right?
But what I hear you saying so much, Bruno, is the fact that, you know, the skill was one piece and not the biggest piece.
No.
Right? How many of us here in this room have worked with the most, maybe not the most skillful person, but the person who had brought the most energy to the room or had the best personal development and really made that client feel special, and, you know, and you didn't look at the work anymore. You looked at how that person left her clients feeling. And that was a magic.
What makes a client come back to you?
It's relational.
She doesn't go home and says, oh, my hair's really great, beautifully cut. She looks in the mirror and says, do I look good or don't I look good?
Yeah.
And how many compliments am I going to get? And that was my whole thing behind it. you know, and that's what I believed regardless. And sometimes, you know, I remember one time I cut this lady's hair and I was doing a simple simple bob, but I got really confused. I cut one side, I cut the other side, but then what happened was I started brushing it and combing it. I forgot to balance the other side with it. However, I'd already shaped the front of her face and stuff like that. I didn't notice it at the time. She didn't notice it. The hair was looking great around her face and she felt good about it. But when I came to doing a trim for a week, 4 weeks later, I realized, what the hell? And I nearly said, who cut your hair last time? Thank God I didn't, you know, but that's the reality of it. And that, for me, reinforced my whole belief that we got to make somebody feel good, look good when they look in the mirror. I don't care how well and what great techniques you have. If you don't have the applicability of making it so that the client feels good and looks good in the mirror, you haven't won. You could be the best hair cutter, the best blow dryer, whatever, it doesn't matter. You've got to have the ability to make the client look good and feel good.
Yes.
And that was the that I always used to tell people. Yes.
Well, I was just curious. I wanted to go back. You were talking about your vision and then also working with the hairdresser. And I was kind of getting this feeling, and now you're saying, I think something similar. I don't know. I'm really curious. When you've got, I mean, this is what I was getting. You tell me what you were saying, is that you've got a vision as a visionary. And when you're working with a hairdresser, you're making them a part of the vision, but maybe you're talking about it's about how they feel as hairdressers and as, you know, working with you. Because I know personally you were excellent. Oh, I know what I was going to say. It seemed like to me you were saying that it's really about how people getting to know those hairdressers, those managers, those different people at a level beyond them just doing their technical part of their skills.
People are not robots, okay?
Right, okay.
And that's the most important thing. You can teach somebody, this is how you part the hair in the middle, put a clip here, put a clip there, and then you cut the bottom. But do one side first, then do the middle bits, so you join them together and so on and so on. That's a mechanical thing. That's not enough. For me, it wasn't enough, even though I applied that when I was teaching them the basics and all that stuff. But I spend a lot of times, and you know, Jerry, having meetings every week to get to the hairdressers and try to make them participate with what we were thinking, where we were going, the vision of where hair was coming from, where it was going, what we were doing, and why we were doing what we were doing. Because it wasn't enough that we could create good hairdressers. There's a lot of people creating fabulous hairdressers. You know, I wanted to teach people, go beyond just the techniques. How many people that we saw in our lifetime, in our profession, that used to cut hair beautifully? I had lots of those people working for me too, but not all of them had huge clienteles. Now tell me why. If they cut so well and did hair so brilliantly, why did they not build huge clienteles?
Yeah, that's what I've always said. It's the development of the person that's more important.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
It
I love
wasn't
that. I
enough.
love that you touched on that. The other day, I had lunch with a former colleague, and she was telling me about another former colleague that was getting out of the industry. And I knew it wasn't because of her skill set, it was because she hadn't developed her personal development. So she hadn't grown as a person, you know?
Right.
And what gave you, so when you were sharing that with that personal development that makes a difference, what gave you the courage to continue to go with that, because and your leaders, because you're bringing in all different people and all different like backgrounds and, you know, belief systems. How did you get them to buy into that vision, that that was as equally as important?
How do you make somebody really understand what you're talking about? Do you say it once? Do you say it twice? Do you say it multiple times? And do you say it from different perspectives and stuff, right? Well, think about the people that I had working for me. I was coaching them on a weekly basis, you know, and I was teaching them this way, teaching them that way. I would make them participate in the way that I was thinking. I would make them make good decision, bad decision. I didn't care, but I wanted them to participate in making those decisions. How many people did we have working for us that were basically like little robots? A ton of them. Well, a client might want the same haircut as you, but she might have different shaped face. She might have different situations. It was being able to you weren't teaching robots. We weren't. We were teaching people to be able to visualize that face, embrace it, and make it look better when the client looked at herself in the mirror. And it had to be, how can I make this lady look better? Well, you know, she's got a short neck. Well, maybe I'll do a bob to here, you know? Or maybe I'll do half a fringe just to take away from maybe the high forehead, you know? I'll do it a little bit more width around the sides so that it gives her a little bit more comfort when she's touching her hair and doing her hair, you know? That type of stuff, instead of just looking and say, yeah, I think I'll do this lady a bob. Well, I'll tell you at the time, you know how many people did that stuff? They would just do the cuts that they've learned, regardless of what the client that was sitting in their chair looked like or was like, and that's what they did, and that's how they did it. It almost as if at one point we created factory workers to routinely do certain things, you know?
Right.
And that was apparent to me. I don't know if it was because deep down inside, I was also of Italian origin, and I didn't want to just believe that you can accomplish things just by mechanism, but you've got to put your artistic feeling in it and emotions in it, you know?
It's
So
that,
it
that little Italian flair.
it may have been that gave me the little push to make sure that I kept on investigating and trying to do it a bit different, you know?
Yeah, because it's like it's courageous. Like, so there's a certain
Yeah.
amount of courage, and sometimes it's ignorance, right? We don't know what we don't know, so we go forward because you have a vision. And so who did you learn from? Who was your mentor? Like, how did you learn this? Like, we were talking today at the top of the call. We've just spent a whole day in the John Maxwell team on leadership and personal development and growth, but these resources weren't available when you were starting out. So who did you learn from?
Well, I think I was fortunate because the time I started out was just before the geometric cuts exploded. So my family was of Italian origin, and my brother was an extremely talented young man. Not my younger brother. He became freaking genius in his own right. But my second eldest brother, he was great, and he used to do shampoos and sets in the old days. And I used to always help him put people under the client and take out rollers for him. And I noticed that even when he was doing a geometric type style, he would look at the face in the mirror and decide, should it have a little bit more width here? Should it have a little bit of height on the top? And he would create the shape that made the lady's face really nice and popped it out, you know? And I used to say, why did you do that? He says, well, it wouldn't have been good just to do it flat to head and flat to the side. It needed a bit of height. I didn't know what he was talking about, because I've been to the school that I had been at the time when I was 16, 17, 18, I think, was just teaching basic geometric type of styles. So they didn't talk about height, width, or anything. They just talked about precision, precision, precision. Well, come from an Italian family, but we didn't have that to start with. So we dived in, or we were pushed in, how to make the client's face better looking. It wasn't about just the cut. It was how do you proportion and how do you frame and make the client face look good. And that's where I understood really a lot about putting fringes in, creating width at the sides, definitely the length of the hair, what it should be, and it was when we started doing the layered cut, I think that that was a while before. I'm not sure if we started doing that. It was a necessity of framing the lady's face with hair short round her face, but at the same time, making her feel feminine by leaving some long hair. But it was amazing that we could cut the sides short, leave the back long. Then we started joining them together. It was exciting, but I don't think it would have happened if you did not experiment with some of those other things,
Bruno, I think one of the things that salon owners are probably going to be curious about is how did you bring that? Like, that's such a strong vision. And I know you said you meet every week, but how did you bring the vision to life and really get them to execute? Like, what were some of the things that you did to actually get them to execute the thing that you saw? Because I think this is one of the biggest challenges, is that we have this vision and we want people to do hair maybe like us, even if we see something bigger. But how do we get our teams to do that, to recognize that?
Do your salon owners invest any time and money in doing pictures? We invested money in doing pictures. We did different things. We did photo shoots for trade magazines over and over again. We'd say, well, in London, we only had the Hairdresser's Journal. Well, then I did photo shoots for L'Estetica. I did photo shoots for the Paris or the French magazine. I didn't care who I did it for. Just as long as I could get my people to come with me and show them that hair is not just something that you do. It is an artistic expression of what you do.
Such a great point. Yeah.
And you know what? If we didn't create new things and pushed ourselves to new things, where would we be? You follow what I mean? It's like, how do you test some of the things that are different? Is by you pushing yourself in that way, by doing pictures, sending them to magazines, seeing that people like them, approaching things like that. Then getting I call them students, but they were employees, and they knew how to do hair, but we were teaching them just that refinement, but giving them the gratification, that refinement of them explaining it, doing it on stage for us instead of just doing it when we do training, doing it on stage and creating a platform so that they can be feeling artistic and doing this stuff. I don't see some of that anymore. Not as much. Jerry.
I wanted to say something, looking back at Tony and Guy and Bruno, and I'm listening now because, you know, it's a whole different time. And I'm trying to pick up what I can pick up. And one of the things I hear Bruno saying, or I believe went on, is, you know, I heard Bruno say in the beginning, which was really cool, was about us having belief in us as leaders and owners, and not just mentally, but this feeling, what, you know, instinct of what we should do and going with that. And then, Bruno, you started talk. Go ahead.
Can I just say one thing that you
Please.
just reminded me of? And I don't know if I said it before, but I hope I did, but if I didn't, I'm going to say it now. Believing and showing somebody how to do something is one thing, right?
Okay.
Making them participate with you in
Right.
doing it is a totally different thing.
Yes.
And that's where I was going next.
Yeah.
I hear you saying with the hairdressers, getting them engaged, you know, as we're talking about vision, and I know you're good. I knew you were great at this, is really getting into their head, getting into their skin, you know, really getting to know what's motivated. Because I tell people all the time, and I think it's part of the whole vision thing from what I've seen you do. One of the big things you told me that impacted me as a leader is you know how to inspire and motivate people. And I think that was, to me, it meant the way you deal with me a lot is you would see, what does that person want? What do they need? You know, how do I help them? And that inspires and motivates anyone.
Jerry, you see what you said? How do I help them? Majority of hairdressers, and I don't mean this in a bad way, I mean it for us to reflect. What they do is, how can I be better? How can I make me the best? How can I do? And it's always I.
Mm-hmm.
So when they, like, for example, I would hardly ever have me on stage demonstrating. I'd have my brother demonstrating because he was really good. But I mean, I could have done in our salons here, I could have just been out on stage and did that, and people would have thought that I was good. It wasn't the right thing to do. The right thing to do is to look at the situation and promote the people the proper way so that everybody could excel, you know? And so therefore, when you think about how can I make the best out of this, and you start thinking about the people that are working for you, if you get to know them and you know that I could get on stage and show them how to do this, oh, why not do this? Get somebody on stage to demonstrate what I want.
Mm-hmm.
What's that do for that person?
Mm-hmm.
Confident, crazy, and talks about it all the time. And I think that was one of the secret that how we were able to teach people on a consistent base and become stronger and stronger because we shared it.
Yeah. And you believed in them more than they believed in themselves. You held them up. You didn't push them down.
No, and I didn't push them down so I could go higher.
Yeah.
And I think this is gold.
Sorry, Christine, you pushed them up so you could go wider and bigger. I love it.
Yeah, and it goes back to the process
Go ahead, Christine.
What they want. Like, the more we can give to what they want, then, you know, the more eventually you get what you're looking for. But you have to, what you're saying is we have to give to the people that are with us.
Absolutely. The thing is, if you think that somebody could demonstrate, let them demonstrate. Be there to support them. Don't let them fall. You're going to catch them. Don't let them fall. If somebody is not quite good enough, guess what? Go on stage with them. Make them good enough. What we had to do was to create as many people with confidence and skill that we could build a huge business. You know, well, but I'll teach these people and then they leave me. That's life, isn't it?
Absolutely. They're never going to stay with you for life.
Oh.
They're going to stay with you for a good time. And if they move on, you leave them feeling, a feeling of increase.
Yeah, one time when I was in Dallas not long ago, I thought, well, I got my son-in-law to take me around some of the salons to see how things that they were now doing. And each salon I went in, it was somebody I knew there.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I'm sure that they had been through our, mechanism somewhere. And it was incredible. I didn't look at that as a, jealous way, saying, oh, look at all the competition I created. I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah.
That's the way you've got to look at it.
Yeah.
But fortunately, hairdressing sometimes can be a little bit ego, and nobody wants to share that talent that they have, or at least they pretend they want to share it, but really they don't, or they just give them a little bit, and it's not the right way to do it. You give your heart and soul and your talent, and guess what comes back? Twice as much. Instead of you keeping it because you're afraid. Afraid of what? These people are coming. They're going to be there, and some of them are going to be better than you and stuff. But if you join with the crowd, you're going to be up there with them and find out. And if you're smart enough, like you should be, you'll see what's coming next before they will.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a sign of, I know it's gold. So like that's a sign of true leadership. You have to see more before, because you've got to lead them to the vision, but you can't be looking back and saying, where's my team? They've got to be right with you. You've got to hold them close. But you're the leader. You take on that responsibility for, like, hands up. It's my business. It's, I'll be responsible for everything else, but you're coming with me on this journey. Yeah. Right? Don't worry about it, but I'll make sure that I lift you up. And it's that whole give without expectation. And, it's that compounding effect. You will get more if you invest in your team and your people. And I think that's what a lot of people are afraid of. It's like, I hear that a lot through the people I coach. Well, if I invest in them, they're going to leave. They're going to leave anyway. Right? So they know he's with you for a lifetime. When you want it to be a great experience while they're there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I read something the other day about, as a salon owner, you should be willing to invest, we're talking dollars, like $600 a year in your team. And I think people don't look at it like that. Like you just said, you got to invest in photo shoots. You got to get those experience. You got to, create the environment for them to grow. And you've got to
otherwise look at what hairdressing gives you.
Yeah.
You go in, you shampoo people's hair, you cut it, you style it, and they leave, right? That's like you could be in a factory and do that. We're artists, we're creators, but not only in hair, we create if you've got a business, you're creative in your business. If you're doing a salon, you're creative in your salon. You create your staff, you train them, you create the way you want the salon to run. All that stuff, it's all part of what we're doing. It's a mash of wonderful things that we have the opportunity to be involved in or lead in. But we got to embrace it and love it and do it with heart and soul. Never did anything that was just, for me, it wasn't just like a job. Couldn't do it just as a job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, still to this day. Yeah. Rosemary, do you want to hop in there before we wrap up?
Well, the only thing, I love everything that you're saying, but from what I heard today and from what you're saying, it just kind of solidifies the importance of creating a systematic flow in order to create a vision. And, if you want to just really speak into just a couple of bullet points, the importance of, I think salon owners need to understand that in order to cast your vision, you need to have a system so that people can understand it, because they won't go along with you if they don't understand what it is that you're trying. They need to understand from their perspective as well. So maybe, you guys you've created such a pathway for so many incredible hairdressers over the years. So maybe you can just give some insight on
Well,
what your systems were when you started from where the business is to this day.
is it Rosemary?
Yes.
Okay. The reality of it is this, that what I did, I involved people. I included them by having regular meetings. And then the other thing I also did was that if I was going to change something, I would have a meeting prior to what I was going to change with everybody and made them feel part of what we were doing. I never, ever was just the number one boss making decisions and you didn't know where they were coming from.
Yeah.
We'd have discussions, we'd have different situations occurring. And even when we started doing franchises, it wasn't my decision alone. We just had meetings about it. And I was asking my people, how would you feel if you had somebody that was doing what we were doing, but they were doing it in a different area, different district? But we'd have to, you notice the word we have to teach them the philosophy behind what we believe in. We've got to teach them the techniques. We've got to show them the techniques, hold their hands. And Jerry can refer to this. The majority of people working with me, I could have used any of them to help me train franchisees and anybody else. Because I wasn't separating, oh, you're going to work and you're a hairdresser for me. Oh, you're an educator for me. No, it was just, we're all together. We're all very extremely talented in what we do. And this is how we're going to do it. Making people feel enrolled and involved with you, it doesn't make them feel part of it as if that's management or that's the owner and I'm the employee. We weren't like that. I would try and enroll everybody as much as I possibly could. Now the system, well, I never used a different system. I used the same situations all the time. I believed in education and that was powerful for me. And the powerful of education, what I believed in was that if we don't educate ourselves, we're not going to keep up to date with things. And as much as you say, oh, we're this and we're that, and you're not keeping up to date, you're not there. So, it was like important education. So education was a key critical part of the organization. The other thing was you don't treat people as if they were robots. You communicate with them. You explain the directions that you're going to give to them and why you're giving that direction. It wasn't about, oh, I need you to do this. There's always an explanation behind it. And if you were good enough in my mind to help me direct people, that was a key thing that I would make sure that when I would have meetings, I would also introduce you, make you part of the mechanism and the system so that people would want to be involved like that too. Just the same as some of them were good educators, some weren't. So the good educator would go on stage and teach the others, but guess what? There was other people that were terrified of being on stage, would be there helping them, holding their comb, holding a dryer, so that they felt part of that situation too, making them, first of all, as a huge team, and secondly, building people's confidence. That's something I saw right away, that without that, we weren't as good as what we could be, because I had to build that confidence. Right, Jerry?
You most definitely, and I have someone I would like you to speak to. I think will help everybody. There was two things that and I'm wondering where they came from myself. I know where one came from, but the first one, Tony and Guy had cool. The whole thing about Tony and Guy was everything they did was cool. Our meetings, some of the most fun meetings I've ever been to. Some of the ambassador meetings. Where did this whole cool thing come from? Or how? I know you're British. You come out of the British background, but how were you able to bring that in? Because a lot of people wanted to work for us, just like a lot of makeup artists want to work for MAC because we had a cool persona as a company. But the other thing is, which I think may have something to do with vision, you were willing, it may sound bad when I first say it, everything was for sale at Tony and Guy, which was a good thing. It's like we would sell how you could do our education program in your salon. That's how I got close to Tony and Guy. They had education books all the time. When I was in London, that's what first connected me. But even how the other companies could teach you how to do hair cutting, but I didn't know of any other company even today that would teach you how to set an educational system up in your salon that they had. Like, that's what Tony and Guy, we had a teacher's training program, and we did it before we were Tony and Guy. We were working the Tony and Guy education program. So everything was for sale. You were giving away things that most people would have been intimidated to give away or to sell. You weren't giving them away, but most people would say, no, this is not even for sale. This is for us only. This is our inside stuff. But almost everything was open, was for sale. So I was wondering, where did those two things come from?
Well, you have to explain to me a little bit more clearly what was sale, because I may have given that apparent meaning or whatever meaning to it, but I believe that what we were doing, or what I was trying to accomplish, was that for us to get bigger and bigger with a simple situation, the more we shared and the more people believed in us, the more they were going to build underneath us, and that pyramid would keep growing, which to a certain degree, it did, and it continues. I don't know about it now because I'm no longer in it, but if it, the situation, but that was the idea of it, and it was reinforced by us creating artistic groups, management groups, all those type of things was educational. Now, I don't think that it would have been feasible just to say, okay, what else can I sell? It was first of all coming from within with the direction of sharing and teaching people how to do things better, and hoping that teaching was also a way of coaching them to support us,
Right.
But the first and the most important thing was that we taught everybody the same, whether they work in a Tony and Guy salon, or if they were franchises, or if they came to one of your seminars and stuff that we did.
Exactly. And I thought that was unique.
Yeah, we didn't ever say, oh, this is for us and that's for them. Because I wanted to have an impact on the industry. I think if we can upgrade the industry, is going to be phenomenal. And we did, to a certain degree, upgrade it a lot.
Yeah.
And that's the vision of it. It was like a genuine feeling of giving and supporting the industry.
Right. And adding tons and tons of value. That the only way to, for people to get more value was to raise other people up. That's the part.
Thank you. That was exactly the other thing too. It was to make sure that people weren't just selfishly thinking about themselves.
Yeah.
The majority of hairdressers at that particular time were very egoistic and very orientated about themselves and nothing else.
Yeah. The fact that you had that vision and that foresight, I think, is amazing, because it's not that common in our industry, unfortunately. And even very little has changed when you talk about building people's confidence. It's basically doing the basics right. That hasn't changed. What, Christine, Rosemary, Jerry, I know your sons are still in business. That hasn't changed. Christine, I can't hear you.
What we talked about earlier, though, is really you didn't have fear. And I think fear cripples us as owners. It makes us make bad decisions. it doesn't allow us to give freely in a way that we could connect with our people. We're missing those opportunities because fear is getting in our way of something that, you know, most likely will happen anyway at some point. And so, you know, I really feel, I hear you, and I don't only hear you, but I feel your transparency, your authenticity, and your pure love for the craft, and to carry that on to other people. And the fact that you've allowed yourself to be that through and through and through and through it's just really amazing to me. It really is, because fear can really get a hold on you.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, and I think fear also, you're not creative anymore,
Yeah.
right? How can you be creative when you're fearful? You know, you're fearful of that next decision. And as you said, it's that whole self-confidence, building your own self-confidence as a leader, because you have the courage to step up and say, I want to run a business, or I want to run a team, or I want to have my own. But then the fear comes in, because for what reason? And you surrounded yourself by obviously great people. And I think that's what's really important. It's very lonely out there as a leader. And, you know, you got to surround, if you don't have a great team around you, you got to find a team, or you got to hire a team.
Well, you know, it would be better if you find a team than hire a team sometimes, because as you find them, you can coach them and teach them with your culture and your way of thinking. You know, and then they don't come in with already different way of thinking and different culture that they've been taught by others, you know, and that's really important.
Yeah, what I was meaning, not necessarily kind of bringing in, you know, a group of talented hairdressers, but you got to find people that are doing what you want to do, and follow them, or ask them to coach you, or ask them to mentor you. You know, it's like, don't be afraid. Don't do it alone.
No.
You know, and that's what we want to provide.
That's right.
With this. And
beautiful.
Yeah. No, this has been so, Bruno, it's just like, you've got, as Christine said, you've got such a heart and soul. And if that, to always have that vision to elevate our industry, and we're talking 30 years later, and that message is still ringing true. And, you know, that's why we're hanging out here.
Fabulous. That's awesome.
Thank you so much, Bruno. Oh my goodness.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's an honor to be here with you. So we look forward to the next one. We're going to have to think about how else we're going to pick your brain for the next session. So
Okay.
I think we could talk about prioritizing.
Yeah.
I heard that a lot today.
Yeah.
That's very important, prioritizing.
So that's going to be next month's conversation.
Okay.
So, okay, because I think that came at the top of the hour. So have a great evening, everybody. You know, love what you do, and we're here to support you.
Thank you very much. Everybody have a good time. See you later.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Happy holiday.
Yeah, bye. Thank you.